Translation and purport by His loving divine grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Satyavati, however, pacified Richika Muni with peaceful words and requested that her son not be like a fierce Kshatriya. Richika Muni replied, "Then your grandson will be of a Kshatriya spirit." Thus Jamadagni was born as the son of Satyavati. I guess we should repeat together, so please kindly repeat responsively. Satyavati, however, pacified Richika Muni with peaceful words and requested that her son not be like a fierce Kshatriya. Richika Muni replied, "Then your grandson will be of a Kshatriya spirit." Thus Jamadagni was born as the son of Satyavati. And the purport. It's a very short purport. Actually, originally I was going to speak on another verse, and then Nandan asked me to stick to that one. So the other one had a really long purport, 2 pages. This one has only 2 sentences, 2 lines, 3 lines. It's actually easier to speak on a shorter verse, because then you can cover everything. There's a huge amount of information in every word, every letter of Srila Prabhupada's purports. So, there's plenty to speak about. So the purport is, the great sage Richika was very angry, but somehow or other, Satyavati pacified him, and at her request, he changed his mind. It is indicated here that the son of Jamadagni would be born as Parashuram. End of purport. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate grim yat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurun Tinatharanam Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tirani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare. I would like to beg again for your blessings, and also I'd like to request for the blessings of those Vaishnavas who are sitting comfortably at home and listening to the class online, because there are quite many. Yesterday, for example, I checked how many were listening to His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj's class, and guess how many were there? 500. Wow. That's very... it was 140. Probably, yeah, up in the ashram. I listen to the class regularly online, so I'm with you most of the time, guys. Prabhus. So as I said, this is a very short purport, but it doesn't matter. There's tons of information and tons of nectar. So Janma, Mrityu, Jara Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshanu Darshanam. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 13th chapter, text number 9, that this is the verse, a series of verses that describe what is knowledge in the 13th chapter. And Krishna says there that one of the items of knowledge is the awareness or the perception, that's what Prabhupada writes, the perception of the evil of birth, old age, disease and death. This is a very important point actually, and today's verse and a few verses before and after speak about the birth of a great personality, namely Parashuram, who is a Shakti Avesha avatar. He is an empowered incarnation of Krishna. So he is a living entity who's been invested with special powers, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about him in the next classes, and you've been hearing about him a little bit prior to this verse. But he is invested with the power to curb down the demoniac or whimsical kshatriyas, kings. Now, when we speak of this verse, I'd like to mention something in the beginning of the class. Janma means birth. So, birth is a very common occurrence in this world. Everyone takes birth. In the Bhagavatam, there's plenty of stories, not only the Bhagavatam, but in the Vedic scriptures as a whole. There's numerous accounts of people taking birth. And I would like to ask you, dear devotees, to give me several accounts of someone taking birth which are out of the ordinary, which are extraordinary. Can you think of any examples? Please raise your hand. Yes, Gaura Krishna Prabhu. Maharaj Prithu, all right. So how was he born? Churning. Okay. King Vena, was it? King Vena, huh? Was it? Yes. So King Vena was a very demoniac king, and the Brahmanas had him killed. And then they churned his body, and out of this body appeared Prithu Maharaj. He was also an empowered incarnation of Krishna. And other examples, you can... Sutapa Prabhu. Lord Brahma, okay, so he appeared from the lotus flower, which came from Lord Vishnu's navel. Other examples, Tattvavid Prabhu? Okay, so Shukadev Goswami stayed in the womb of his mother for 16 years. He wouldn't come out. He was afraid to come out because of Maya. That's a healthy thing, to be afraid of Maya. Very healthy thing. Other examples you can think of? Yes, Ravindranath Prabhu. Sita Devi. She was born out of the earth. They dug up a nice chest, and inside there was a baby. Any other examples? Nandan Prabhu? Lord Shiva? Okay, so Lord Shiva appeared from the forehead of Lord Brahma because Brahma was feeling angry. Any other births you can think of? the sons of Dhritarashtra, I was just going to say about them, 100 sons of Dhritarashtra and one daughter. And they all appeared as a lump of matter, which then was distributed in 101 pots. Amazing. What else? Jarasandha. You remember Jarasandha? His mother connected two bodies into one. Anybody else? London? One more? Hanumanji. What's special about his appearance? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, very good example. Thank you. And then I'm thinking of Draupadi and Drishtadyumna. They appeared out of the fire. So like that, and they were also grown up when they appeared. So like that, there's numerous accounts of extraordinary appearances, births in our scriptures. So that's quite significant. Now, we're supposed to think of birth as something, unpleasant. It's one of the sufferings. Actually, Prabhupada says that people nowadays, they're not aware of the sufferings. I mean, they do suffer and they try to avoid the suffering. But if you ask them how does suffering manifest, they probably won't list at least birth as something, as a suffering. But actually it is. In one class, I remember many years ago, His Holiness Lokanath Swami said that birth is a very unpleasant occurrence in someone's life, and although the parents and the relatives and everyone is very, very elated when a child appears on this planet, there is no instance, or at least I don't know of any child coming out of the womb and smiling or laughing. Have you ever heard of such a thing? The children always, when they come out, they cry. Or they're so much stunned with pain and shock that they can't even say a word. They don't even cry. But at least the facial expression shows that they're experiencing a lot of pain, and it is a very painful experience. So Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Prabhupada speaks about one interesting thing in his books in different places, and that's family planning. Do you know that term, family planning? The modern society uses it. I checked on the internet yesterday about family planning. Just wanted to find out what is the definition they give. I didn't find a definition, but I found one website which is called Family Planning. It's a UK website, and family planning, as Prabhupada describes it, is different from the family planning that is known of today. Family planning literally means avoiding the birth of a child, using contraceptives. And I was shocked when I saw that in the UK officially there's 15 different ways of avoiding a child's birth. 15 different ways. And here are some of them listed. Forgive me if that's disturbing for some of you, but examples are contraceptive injection, implant, IUS and IUD, whatever they mean, contraceptive vaginal ring, female and male condom, combined pill, natural family planning. So, and the list goes on. And these are the ones that are listed. And natural family planning is actually, you watch just to try and have intercourse when there is no chance for birth. So like that, these are 15 different ways that the people are trying to avoid birth. And it's a shame that that's going on in today's society. I wanted to read a few quotes from Prabhupada's books. The first one is from the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 6, text number 8. In the purport, Prabhupada says, there is a necessity for generating progeny even in the material world, but such generation of children must be carried out with full responsibility for spiritual values. The spiritual values of life can be realized in the human form of material existence, and the human being must adopt family planning with reference to the context of spiritual values and not otherwise. The degraded form of family restriction by use of contraceptive, etc., is the grossest type of material contamination. Materialists who use these devices want to fully utilize the pleasure potency of the coating on the genitals by artificial means without knowing the spiritual importance. And without knowledge of spiritual values, the less intelligent man tries to utilize only the material sense pleasure of the genitals. So this is one quote, and then I have another one. The irresponsible life of sense enjoyment was unknown to the children of the followers of the Varna Ashram system. The boy was even injected with spiritual acumen before being placed by the father in the womb of the mother. Both the father and the mother were responsible for the boy's success in being liberated from the material bondage. That is the process of successful family planning. It is to beget children for complete perfection. Without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, and without being fully obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master, and without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead. So there's numerous quotes like that in Prabhupada's books that speak about the necessity of family planning, but family planning doesn't mean to avoid children. Family planning means to have in your mind the conception that my child is supposed to take birth and become servant of Krishna, which will enable that child to fulfill the meaning of human life, which is the meaning of human life is to attain liberation from the bondage of birth and death. Human life is very rare. Prabhupada gives the example of the tortoise which is trying to reach the surface of the ocean, and it's swimming towards the surface, and as it comes to the top, to the surface, simultaneously there's a plank of wood which's got a small hole in it, and when the tortoise emerges from the water, it actually goes through that hole and takes a breath. So how likely is that to happen? Very unlikely. The waves are doing like this. So it's very unlikely that something like that would happen. And this is how rare someone can get a human form of life. human form of life is the only one which offers the facility to become free from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, we should be very thankful for having received the human form of life, and also very responsible not to waste that opportunity. Especially young people, like Ravan. Yes? He's not anymore a child. I used to remember him so small. Now he's a big youth. Good to see him in a class. Thank you for coming. Prahlad Maharaj said, Kaumaracharet pragyo, from a very, very young age, one has to engage in devotional service and try to become free of the cycle of birth and death. And unfortunately, most of us, we live our lives completely oblivious of what's ahead of us. But death comes very quickly, actually, for everyone. Just 100 years from now, from today, no one on this planet will be present. Everyone will be gone, with very few exceptions. Maybe few people who are taking birth right now and who manage to make it to 100 years. They will be still alive, but most of us will be gone. The planet won't be empty. On the contrary, there will be probably more human beings. In Kali Yuga, the number of human beings is increasing, because that's the only chance for unqualified people to take birth as a human. So just 100 years from now, there will be no one from us here. And yet, we are so foolish. And we think that everything that is here is ours. Nothing is ours. People are fighting over a small piece of land. Think of Israel and Palestine. They've been fighting over a small tract of land for a long, long time, constantly. In Kashmir also, there's so many places where people claim, this is my land, this is my property, that's my, I acquired that for my own sense gratification. But everything, at the time of death, everything is taken away. Everything. No one can take anything with them, anything material. The only thing we can take away when we go to our next destination is whatever pious or impious credits we have accumulated. So like that, birth is a very important occurrence in someone's life. And I just wanted to focus on today's verse, which also speaks about a specific, very special appearance. What is striking about this specific story, this special story about Lord Parashuram's appearance, is that his father Jamadagni, and actually the father of his father, his grandfather, Richika Muni, he was such a powerful Brahmana that he could decide, before the child was even born, what qualities that child would have. So, you know the story, you've heard the story. There were two women who were supposed to have an oblation. So, Richika Muni performed a sacrifice, and he got two oblations. One of them was meant to be given to his wife, Satyavati, and the other to her mother, the queen. Now, Satyavati was supposed to bear a child who had Brahminical qualities. He already thought what qualities the children should have prior to their birth. And the child that was supposed to be born by the mother of Satyavati, the queen, it was supposed to be a Kshatriya. So the mother of Satyavati, she became a little bit envious of her daughter, and she thought, well, your oblation is better than mine, because your husband is more affectionate to you, so naturally he gave you a better deal. I want to swap with you those oblations. And Satyavati agreed, being a humble lady. She agreed, so they swapped the oblations. And then Richika Muni, when he went to take a bath, and he came back from having a bath. And when he heard what's happened, he was very angry. How could you do that? I've had a plan for the birth of those 2 children, and you messed up everything. Now your son will have the qualities of a kshatriya. And that's what he said to his wife. You shouldn't have done that. And then Satyavati requested the word here used here in this verse is prasadita. Prasadita, it's the first word, as you see it. It means pacify. Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Gaurnitai ki jai. Prasadita means to satisfy with pleasing words. One of the translation that is given in Prabhupada's books of that word is what is it? Propitiate. And the propitiate, the definition in the dictionary is to win or regain the favor of God, spirit or person by doing something that pleases them. So Satyavati propitiated her husband, Richika Muni. How did you do that? Prabhupada says, by peaceful words. So imagine that situation. Richika Muni is coming from his bath, and he finds out, he's shocked, he finds out that the oblation's been swapped, which goes against his plan. He was doing family planning, right? The spiritual family planning. And then he finds out that someone's actually frustrated his plan. And he becomes very angry. And Satyavati, she's naturally very disturbed too, because her husband is angry. She doesn't know what to expect. And he says that her child will be like a kshatriya, although he was supposed to be a Brahmin, had the Brahmin qualities. So he curses, doesn't curse, but she manages with her pleasing words to satisfy him in such a way, to propitiate him. And then he says, okay, I say that your child will have Brahminical qualities, but your grandson will be like will have the spirit of a fierce kshatriya. So that's Jamadag, that's Lord Parashuram. So like that, he had the power to actually postpone the qualities for the next generation. It's amazing when you think about it. I mean, it's just extraordinary what people could do in the previous ages, in the past ages. They could plan the qualities of their children to such an extent. It's just amazing. Now in India, still, and in Indian families that live outside of India, they're very conscious about planning the good progeny, and it is very difficult for a Westerner to be married to a girl who comes from an Indian family, because the families, they're very conscious about not having a combination of people who are not of the same upbringing, of the same caste. In India especially, that's very, very prominent still nowadays. In the past ages, there were two things, pratiloma and anuloma. Anuloma is when it's the girl is from a lower family and the husband is from a higher family. So there was auspicious and inauspicious mixing of the families. And in Kali Yuga, the prominent progeny is known as Varna Shankara. Varna Shankara means mixing up, very inauspicious kind of mixing of the qualities of father and mother. So family planning is definitely very important. But what I wanted to focus on in the next part of my class is the way Satyavati managed to please Richika Muni. Now, to be able to sustain good consciousness and peaceful mood in adverse situations is a very difficult thing. Satyavati was certainly very, very disturbed because her husband was angry. I mean, imagine, at least the married ladies, they can imagine what it means that your husband comes back home and he becomes angry over something, over a mistake. And that wasn't a small mistake. That was a huge thing. Because the birth of the child in Vedic time especially was a very important event. Even today it is a very important event. So parents are very careful and very eager to have a good progeny. So Richika Muni comes very angry, he's fuming, How could you do such a stupid thing? And then she, although being disturbed, she had the power, she had the ability to actually pacify him with pleasing words. So how qualified she was. There is something that Krishna speaks about in Bhagavad Gita. It is austerity of speech, right? Austerity of speech, I want to read for you the verse. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad Gita. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagena Chagrihyate. So the translation is, Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice, by detachment. That's actually a different quote. And then the austerity of speech, Krishna says, I believe it's in 17th chapter, that the speech has to be pleasing. First of all, it has to be truthful. It has to be pleasing. That's austerity of speech. And also one has to recite Vedic hymns as a matter of control of the speech. So these are examples of austerity of speech. And in order to achieve that, one has to practice. That's why I had this quote here for you. So I'll read part of the purport for you. In the present age, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on the super soul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one's hear about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind in spirit. Now, the qualities of someone, of any person, are seen especially in adverse situations, right? We can always dress ourselves in different ways. We can wear tilak, we can wear dhoti and chadar, have a garland on us, and that looks very devotional. It looks very Vedic and like that. So that's only the external appearance. We can also dress ourselves pretending that we have certain qualities, high qualities. And many people do that. Unfortunately, conditioned souls try to put on a show. They try to look as someone that they're not. That's the most common thing. We're always conscious of what others think of us. Now, someone's qualities can be seen especially in adverse situations, in provoking situations. This is when the real nature of people comes. Yesterday was Ekadashi, wasn't it? No, that day before yesterday. Day before yesterday was Ekadashi. And Ekadashis are known to be very challenging days, materially speaking, and very reinforcing spiritually. Yet on Ekadashi day, on Wednesday, I had a terrible day, materially speaking. From a material point of view. 3 things happened to me. I cooked my family's lunch, and I dropped the pot full of vegetables. So much stuff fell on the floor, so I had to chuck out a lot of vegetables. As I was taking them from the oven, I burned myself and I dropped the pot. And I was so angry. Then later during the day, after being in the hospital, I came home, and then I wanted to come to the temple to take some prasadam. So I was rushing, because it was a short time before they serve evening prasad. And as I was driving from home, I bumped someone's mirror, the side mirror in the car, and it broke. So I had to come back. Although I was rushing, I had to come back and see whose car that was in order to sort it out. Didn't want to run away. Never run away from the scene of the crime. I did once that. And then I got a letter in the post saying that, someone reported me actually to the police. I got away with it because I wrote a nice letter explaining what happened, and I was lucky. There was no consequences of that. But anyway, so on Wednesday I went to the temple, so that was another thing that happened to me. And then I came back, and by the time I had to take my dinner, prasadam was cold because I took prasadam away. And I wanted to put it in the oven again to make it hot. And I was transferring to a metal plate to heat it in the oven. I dropped the plate with the prasadam. And when that happened, I screamed, "Wow!" I was really angry, And then I thought, look at my qualities. That's me, getting angry at such a small thing. So like that, these kind of adverse situations, of provoking situations, they bring out our real nature. And I really shouted loud. I think the neighbors must have heard me. My wife came and said, "Are you all right?" Like that. So provoking situations bring out our real qualities. And someone may try to put on a show of being very humble, or being very, modest, or very controlled and like that. But when a provoking situation comes, then the real nature is seen. So like that. And sometimes people, even Prabhupada, he would put his disciples in situations where he would test them, The spiritual master sometimes does that. He wants to see his disciples, and he puts them in a kind of provoking situation where they have to prove their qualities. So this verse which we read from the Bhagavad Gita says that in order to curb the mind and control the mind, you have to do what is known as abhyas. Abhyas means practice. In order to control the mind, one has to practice controlling the mind. And also, it is only possible to control the mind through vairagya. And that, as Prabhupada explains in the purport, is only achieved by the process of hearing. Because when you hear about Krishna, not just hearing, but hearing about Krishna, when you hear about Krishna, you develop what is known as taste. You develop taste for Krishna consciousness. And by developing that taste, the mind becomes peaceful and detached. Detachment can only be gained by development of higher taste. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Param drishtva nivartate." By developing the higher taste, you can forget about the lower taste. And what is the lower taste? Lower taste is we have been loitering in this material world for countless lifetimes, and we have become accustomed to be attracted to material pleasures, material sense objects. And this is the reason for our disturbed minds, the desire to enjoy the material sense objects. When you make a plan in your mind that you want to enjoy something, it makes us very, very disturbed. Material desires don't make us happier, they make us more miserable. And the only way to become free of those disturbances of the mind is to become peaceful. And to become peaceful is possible by developing a higher taste. Because the less desires you have, material desires, the less hankerings you have, the more peaceful your mind is. And that's not easy. The only way you can do that is by fixing one's mind on the wonderful pastimes of Krishna and descriptions of Krishna's qualities, and hearing from the scriptures. So therefore, if we want to develop good qualities and be able to remain peaceful, and not only remain peaceful, but to also make others peaceful in their angry state, like the example of Satyavati, we have to engage constantly in the process of hearing, Shravanam. Especially, Prabhupada says the 9 processes, but then he says especially the process of Shravanam. And there's various ways you can engage in the process of Shravanam. One is to attend Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is a wonderful thing. But even more powerful way is to have sadhu sangha. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Chatur Shloki, in the essence of Bhagavad Gita, he says, Bodhayanta Parasparam, that the devotees should worship him by, they find great pleasure in talking, enlightening each other and conversing about him. So this is something that devotees have to practice. I mean, if you know Prabhupada's life before he came to the West, we always hear stories, especially from the time when Prabhupada came to the West, because we hear those stories from his disciples. But there's a wonderful book written by Her Grace Mula Prakriti Mataji, where, thank you Prabhu, where she speaks about Prabhupada as he was known before he came to the West, by his contemporaries, by his godbrothers and friends, etc., those who he came across with. And one of the things which struck me the most was how Prabhupada would very often sit down and have spiritual discussion with his godbrothers, especially with Sridhar Swami. He was probably one of his favorite godbrothers that he would sit and discuss. And there's one specific occurrence, which is a story told by Govinda Maharaj, who passed away. This was a disciple of Sridhar Swami. Govinda Maharaj was saying that once Sridhar Swami came to Prabhupada's house, I believe it's in Calcutta, and they were discussing Krishna Katha for many hours, actually the whole day. And at one point, Govinda, who was a brahmachari serving his spiritual master, Sridhar Swami at that time, he became so restless because he hadn't eaten the whole day. He was just there serving them and listening to the katha. And Prabhupada noticed that he was disturbed because he was hungry. And he said, let this boy have prasadam, Yeah. They were so immersed in Krishna Katha that they forgot all about eating and drinking and sleeping or whatever. So Prabhupada was always like that, engaged in Krishna Katha and Sadhu Sangha. And we have a wonderful opportunity to learn about a wonderful way of discussing Srila Prabhupada's books by the mercy of two wonderful devotees, Krishna Dharma Prabhu and his wife Chintamani Mataji. They're teaching the community of devotees how to do discussions, and if you haven't been exposed to that yet, please approach Chintamani Mataji. She'll be happy. Even we can help you. I mean, me and my wife, we're doing discussions every day on Bhagavad Gita. We sit down and read some small passage of Prabhupada's purport, and then we discuss how we understand it, etc., etc. It's a very wonderful way to keep one's mind focused on Prabhupada's teachings, and it's I would say it's even more powerful than the classes, because classes are mostly monotonous in the sense that there's one speaker and the audience is receiving whatever the speaker gives, but they don't have much chance to respond and to actually take part. It's not interactive. It's not so interactive. I'm actually naughty because I've gone over time, and I was thinking I should give a quick class, but as I said, I'm very rusty. Speaking slowly and like that, so it didn't leave much time for discussion, but I'm sure you probably have something in your mind that you wanted to share like that. Do you think we could spare at least 5 minutes for devotees? So please engage yourself in discussions in whatever way you think appropriate, but that's very important, rather than sit and talk about prasadam, the weather, the political occurrences in the world, or anything, anything material. Don't talk about these things. They don't make you happy. They don't help us. That's called prajalpa anyway. Speak about Krishna, speak about things related to devotional service and like that. And that will make you very peaceful, and it will give you so much pleasure. That's the only way we can come to the stage when we can control our mind, control our speech, and like that. So if anyone has any comment on what we've spoken, or